Because let's face it, if you are committed to your mission, a mission of personal excellence, whether you are an entrepreneur, an executive, an athlete, a creative, a leader of any type, you are naturally going to be questioned, criticized. You're going to be challenged by the vast majority of the people around you. The reason being is they're seeing life through their lens. They're seeing it the way they think you should be. But they don't understand that what you have is more than just an obsession. It's an actual connection to your mission, which is the reason it's so important to be connected to and align with other people that have that natural, internal, true drive that you have. Not the manufactured bullshit of the hustle culture where it's all about external validation to kind of fill that void of some sort of a wound. The childish immaturity of the hustle culture is not what we're talking about. We're talking about professionals that want excellence for themselves. They want to achieve great things. They want to have great results, but not sell their soul in the process. The good news is you can have those things. You can have a great life. You can have awesome results. And you don't have to compromise your health or your relationships for it. And you definitely don't have to sell your soul. But it does require a shift in how you see yourself. It requires a shift in how you operate. It requires a shift in how you show up as that leader. And that shift can happen right now. What's up, my friends? JT DeBolt with you today for the True Driven Podcast, the podcast for the few, the true, the driven, those of us who have aligned and united to become the true driven. And I say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, whatever time it is for you, no matter where you might be tuning in from on the Big Blue Marble. Thank you, as always, for joining me here on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and, of course, YouTube. YouTube.com/JT DeBolt. That is the place where I can bring you more updated information on a continual basis outside of just the True Driven Podcast. So jump on over there to youtube.com/JT DeBolt. Give us a follow. Hit that subscribe button so you can be the first to know and stay in the know when I drop new content for you on a weekly basis. So in our previous episode 27, we were talking about the myth of New Year's resolutions. And I kind of alluded in that episode that I was going to be putting out kind of almost like a 3-part series where that was part 1. Today is part 2. And then next week being part 3 in episode 29, we'll be talking a little bit about how to create your best year. You can use that format for any time of year. It doesn't have to be the new year, but it just will be happen to come out on New Year's Day. So stay tuned for that. Today, I actually want to address something that every entrepreneur and leader needs to hear and needs to know, because we have a tendency with everything that's on our plate and all the weight on our shoulders, all the responsibilities we have to lead our teams, to provide for our families, to provide for the organizations and the people that we serve. It can feel like a lot, and we feel like we have to do more, constantly pushing. And while that might be true, an element of that can be controlled and can be managed by us, the leader. If we don't take that position of leadership, our own personal leadership, then pretty soon we get into that situation where the tail begins to wag the dog. We begin to work ourselves into a grind, and we grind ourselves down to a nub, and pretty soon there's not much left of us. We call that burnout. And sometimes that burnout can actually go further, has much more dangerous, deeper, darker implications. Maybe you've experienced this. In the 17, 18, 19 years of entrepreneurship that I've had, I will tell you this, that while that might be a short time relative to a lot of folks out there, in that period of time, I've learned a thing or two about what it takes to truly not just have a high level of performance, but maintain that level of performance and truly live that version of your own personal excellence without compromising your health, your happiness, your well-being, and of course, the relationships that are important. I share this with you because many of you have come to me almost feeling like the hustle culture refugees. For those of you who have subscribed to the hustle culture, you know how painful and how dangerous that whole mentality can be. This notion that you have to work more, grind more, sacrifice until you have nothing left, bleed yourself out, sell your soul for that almighty success. Now, unfortunately, this whole thing kind of got a lot of momentum behind it several years ago when a guy by the name of Gary Vaynerchuk hit the screen and started talking about hustling your face off. Now, I want to say one thing. I think Gary Vaynerchuk's awesome. And for those of you who know who I'm talking about, perhaps you've learned a thing or two from Gary as well. Gary had a very profound impact on my career very, very early on. One of my first early struggles, I was at a bit of a crossroads where I was working with a group of folks whose values and vision no longer aligned with mine. I started to recognize that while they wanted to play the game below the bar, I wanted to be above the bar. They wanted to play with a lack of integrity, and I wanted to play with integrity. And so it came a point where I knew I had to make that shift and that pivot away. But it was so early in my career. I was just freshly out of the U.S. Navy, did not have a lot of experience, didn't have a lot of resources at my disposal. So it was go out into the cold sort of fortress or frontier rather on my own and figure this thing out, or continue down this path going against my values, going against what I knew was true of my character. So I had to make that tough decision, and I owe it to Gary for being the voice of reason. He doesn't even realize this. We've obviously never met, but what's interesting is he had a video where he was talking about stop doing shit you hate. It was almost like this forceful rally cry, like he was screaming to the world to heed his call. And he was talking specifically, I felt, right directly to me. I felt as if I was the only person in the audience, virtual audience as it was. It was a YouTube video. But he was speaking at a conference to a large group of folks. And I know that I wasn't the only one that was impacted by that message. I'm sure that there were quite a few people in that room, hopefully to this day, that are still in business. And I think that's important because forever he was the purveyor of this message of hustle your face off. Hustle, 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 grind, 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 go, go, go. And like a lot of things, you'll hear these experts and these folks that kind of come on the scene and they rise to high levels of prominence and their message is taken out of context. I mean, you can think of almost anybody. A lot of Christians have taken Jesus Christ's teaching out of context and gone a whole different way and turned it into something that it's not. Tony Robbins is another great example, and so on and so forth. My point is this. Gary Vaynerchuk had this message forever about hustling your face off, but it was misunderstood and taken out of context, taken almost to a dangerous extreme. I was starting to see people in the online space and even offline bragging and boasting about how they were working 28 hours a day, 8 days a week, quite literally as if they had no sleep. They had no time for rest, no time for recreation, no time for relationships. And while that is a personal choice on some people, and that is somebody putting a priority beyond what the average well-adjusted human being might make, that's a personal choice. They have the right to do that. If you are one of those hustle culture refugees, so to speak, where you attempted that, you tried the hustle culture and realized that it wasn't for you. Maybe you did, like me, suffer health issues and relationship issues and found that it was not only unfulfilling, but something that quite frankly was draining your life and draining your soul. If that's you, then I want you to pay close attention because this episode is specifically for you. Now, guys, look, here's the reality. Every time I come out here for you on the True Driven podcast or any of the other formats where I train my True Drivens and I train my folks, my people that come here to listen, I strive to basically teach what I know from personal experience. Now, sometimes, oftentimes, and usually that personal experience is direct face-to-face contact with the enemy, direct front contact. I have either experienced it or gone through it myself. Sometimes it's experiences that I help coach other people through, where I didn't actually experience it, I coach them through it. Or sometimes it's kind of a hybrid of those two where I both experienced it and coached other people through it. The vast majority of it means that I have actually done the walk with you guys, stepped in the same footsteps. And in this case, with the hustle culture, that is definitely one of those moments, one of those instances. So I want to talk through this today because if you are one of those people who found yourself listless, found yourself burnt out, found yourself saying, this is not fun anymore, I don't want to do this anymore, but feeling the guilt of walking away, feeling the guilt of even thinking that you would close shop. I want you to pay close attention because there is a better way that you can start to leverage right now. And I'm sharing this with you now as we close out this year at the time of this recording, of course, and start to face the new year with optimism and hope, and also a sense of intention, a sense of purpose, and more importantly, a strategy to reinforce all of that. This episode is designed for you to get past the whole hustle culture. The hustle culture, by the way, is something that I truly believe just through experience, through working with other entrepreneurs, comes from a place of, dare I say, insecurity. Boil it down to that. This feeling that they have to prove to the world that they're worthy. They have to prove to themselves. Maybe they're trying to prove it to somebody else. Could be a parent, could be a mentor, could be a friend, could be a spouse, a girlfriend, whatever it might be, that they are worthy by outworking the competition, outworking everybody else. You even see it printed on t-shirts, hardest worker in the gym. Come on, man. If you got to wear a t-shirt to prove it, then you're frankly not the hardest worker anywhere, let alone the gym. But this whole idea that I'm going to prove to you how hard I work and how much I sacrifice. So I'm going to sit at my desk and eat crappy takeout food as opposed to slowing down and being present and enjoying a nutritious meal. I'm going to sacrifice relationships as opposed to finding the ability, the self-leadership to be able to carve time out for not only my mission, but also the people I'm doing it for. To have this idea that I will sacrifice everything, even if it comes down to my soul, for the almighty success. That is not success at all. It's not impressive. And what's crazy, you've probably seen this from folks who subscribe to the whole hustle culture. It's almost like a badge of honor. They want you to be celebrating them. They want you to acknowledge them. They want you to admire them. They feel like they need that external validation to feel worthy. Now, they may not say it in those words. And if you ever called them on it, they, of course, would get defensive and say, that's bullshit. You just don't have the same work ethic I do. You don't want it as bad as I do. Nobody can outdo me, right? What does that sound like? It's ego. And while I don't have a problem with ego, I think uncontrolled ego is a problem. Uncontrolled ego could be the quote unquote proverbial enemy. There is an aspect of this where we can have that edge. We can have that drive. We can have that burning desire to succeed, to win, to work, and find our purpose in our work without compromising our health, our happiness, our friendships, our relationships. The things that are truly important in life. It would suck to be the wealthiest person in the graveyard, so let's avoid that. The reason I started the True Driven movement was basically because I had gotten so sick, almost an allergic reaction to the whole hustle culture. This notion that there was this constant sort of chest pounding, let me show you how hard I can work, and let me prove to you how much I've put in and how much I've sacrificed, how much pain I've gone through. All of those things are fine if there's a lesson attached to it. In other words, maybe you have experienced those things and you want to show people a better way. Maybe you've had the experience of working too hard, not sleeping well enough, not eating properly, not taking care of your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health, and then suffered the consequences for that. And so through that, you choose to share the lesson. Hey, I think that's great. I actually do. I respect that, and I actually appreciate it on behalf of everybody else who may benefit from your sharing that message. So that's different than somebody who is going out of their way to basically drive themselves into an early grave, and through seeking that validation from other people, continue to do so, promoting it on all the social media platforms and making it part of their rally cry. Being a true driven means that you have a true, authentic, natural inner drive. It means that that drive can feel consuming at times, all consuming. it can feel like an obsession. It can feel like a switch that you're unable to flip off. While everybody else seems to want to relax, watch the ball game, take downtime during the holidays, you are constantly thinking about your mission. You are constantly working on ways to create your vision and bring it to life. You can't stop talking about it. And while the people around you don't understand you, you feel compelled to keep going. That's different. That is, at its core, what it means to be a true driven. But the ability to not do so from a place of needing that external validation, which is what the hustle culture needs, from doing it from a place of authentically wanting to serve, where what you are doing, what you're producing, what you are creating is designed for other people to benefit just as much as you, which is very different from the hustle culture. For you true drivens, what it means is, yes, you can have the spoils of success. You can have the fancy stuff, but those things are more geared towards showing yourself that it was worth it. You had those things, as opposed to showing everybody else how great you are, showing everybody else what you've attained. The old saying, show less than you have, applies more to a true driven than it does to the hustle culture. What's interesting as well about hustle culture as opposed to the true driven lifestyle is true drivens are far more stoic, whereas the hustle culture is far more ego driven. It's far more of a chest thumping exercise when you are in the hustle culture, whereas for a true driven, the real reward comes through the work, which means that you don't have to constantly work in order to be validated or to be rewarded by somebody else, because you already know doing that dark work in the dark hours is enough, validation enough. While others may second guess your sanity, they may not necessarily agree with your path, you have found a home. It feels natural and it feels right. Here's the interesting part. To the outside world, you may look like the hustle culture person. To the outside world, they may not be able to see the difference, but a true driven will know a true driven when they see each other. We'll realize when somebody's just trying to do it for the show, do it for the clicks and the follows and the algorithms, as opposed to doing it out of purpose. The way I like to think of it is this. A true driven doesn't feel like they have to work 24/7, 365 to feel validated. They work because they genuinely love what they do. They feel a compulsion, a must behind what they do. They realize that it is a true gift, an honor, and a privilege to be called to do what they do, to lead the people that they've been called to lead, to have the message, to have the gifts, to have the ability to create and to share. If you can find that, you have found the true gift of what it means to be a true driven. It's one of the best gifts you'll ever have as a leader in life. My friends, look, leadership is difficult. It's hard. The fact that you have committed yourself to a path of leadership, which knowing and realizing that leadership begins with you, being willing to invest deeply in yourself to become the best leader you can be for yourself, so that you can lead others, so that you can demonstrate those skills and that wisdom through experience to the people you lead and the people you serve. That's a remarkable, virtuous pursuit in life. That's a life worth living. And that turns into be more than just a gift. Not just a gift for you, but a gift to the rest of the people. You actually become a gift. You become somebody that in their life, they feel truly blessed to know you, to associate with you, to learn from you, to follow you. It's difficult, leadership is, of course. But this idea that we're going to work ourselves into an early grave, this idea that we're going to push ourselves into a unnatural or unhealthy position, that's not very beneficial to any of us. As a true driven, the whole idea of hustle is very sophomoric. The idea that you got to hustle your face off is a way of almost thinking about it like saying, well, I'm going to work harder, but not smarter, just for the sake of showing everybody how hard I'm working. I would rather load my back full of bricks and walk up a wall or walk up a mountain as opposed to finding something to throw all these bricks in, learning how to command it up the hill, and letting the leverage do the work for me. Leverage being a key word for true drivens. The idea behind you having to feel like you always have to be on, always have to be working, and then feeling that deep guilt inside when you take downtime, especially maybe during the holidays or special occasions where you've got friends and family who aren't on the path with you, and have them not understand how come you cannot slow down, you cannot detach, you cannot relax. That's a sad reality. And it's actually a weakness, the inability to detach. It's a weakness, the inability to relax. It's a weakness to have that inability to not be able to relate to others. Now listen, they're not going to relate to you. They're not going to understand that you are compelled to work on your dream, to work on your mission. They're not going to get that. So that's where it comes on our shoulders, our responsibility as those leaders, those true drivens, to be able to meet them where they're at, to be able to communicate and allow them to either get it or not, but appreciate the fact that somebody acknowledges that we are pushing harder than anybody that they know. So maybe they don't understand how you almost seem obsessed with something. Help them understand. Share your vision. One of the key and critical aspects of leadership is the ability to communicate, and especially to communicate the vision. Now, naturally, you're probably thinking, yeah, I need to communicate that vision to the people that are on the mission with me, my staff, my team, my partners, and so on. But there is an element where you still want to have that skill set to be able to communicate that with the other people around you, your friends, your family, whatever it is. The people that don't necessarily align with the mission itself. Maybe they support you from afar. Maybe they support you through their love and their belief in you, but they're not in the trenches with you on a daily basis. Those people still need to understand. And that's where it takes that extra level of strength and skill to be able to appreciate that not everybody is wired like you. Not everybody's going to have a vision like you. Not everybody is going to have the drive that you have. Hustle your face off, and the whole hustle culture, not only is it extremely toxic, it's very unforgiving, and it's also not very rewarding. Over time, you may get some success. Yes, you may hit some big marks. You may make a shitload of money. You may be getting all of the spoils of success temporarily. But at what cost? Your health, your mental wellness, your relationships. It's okay to actually have some downtime. It's okay to actually recreate. It's okay to relax and experience the follies of life every now and then. Watch the game, go to the movie, Netflix and chill. Just don't make that a permanent habit. Make it something that you earn. The great Jim Rohn once said that. Earn your rest. Rest is not something that we aspire for or work for. It's something we earn. It's something that we get to look forward to. And it's times that, whether it's the holidays, whether it's a birthday, anniversary, the special times that make life amazing, that make life rich, we should feel great about the fact that we have put ourselves in a position through our hard work, through our focus, through our convictions, in order to have earned that rest. A true driven understands that life, while it's not really about balance, is about depth. It's not about having everything figured out. It's not about having everything in its place all of the time. Sometimes it's about being okay with the chaos. It's about being flexible enough that in the throes of what you're doing with the mission, taking that special time off to be with that special person, to do the once in a only lifetime or very rare time event, seeing the play, going to the ball game, seeing the practice, whatever the thing is, the recital that your kids are doing, that your spouse or your friends or your loved ones are doing, participating in, and being able to put the mission aside for just that small pocket of time, to having the leadership strength to know when to take your foot off the gas pedal, and realizing that when you do put the foot back on the gas pedal, you will get yourself back on track. It will not be a loss of time or a waste of time. It will be an investment of your energy. Being a true driven is basically the antithesis of the hustle culture. We work so hard for the things that matter. We work so hard for the people who matter. We work so hard because that's what life does. That's what life is. That's what life gives us. It gives us the opportunities to step in, and we feel that compulsion. We feel that sense of responsibility to show up and do those things in those moments, seize those opportunities. But that is not who it defines us as. We are not defined by the work we do. We are not defined by the outcomes we create, the results we get. We're defined by who we are in our soul, in our core. We're defined by our values. We're defined by the vision that we create. We're defined by the missions that we select and commit to and accomplish. We're defined by that sense of purpose that drives us on a daily basis. This need to drive yourself into a grave just to show other people how worthy and capable you are, while sophomoric and immature, is also very short-lived. Yes, you may attain great results. You may be having an amazing result now, but I caution you to not have to feel like you live the rest of your life that way, to feel like you have to constantly keep up that ruse. It is okay to seek out a better way for yourself, to seek out a more holistic approach to success, one that will still require your best efforts, that will still honor your hard work, that will still respect your focus, your dedication, your discipline. That is the way of the true driven. And in this particular time of your life, you get the opportunity to reassess how you want to proceed, how you want to show up, how you want to fill your days, and what you want to create with that time, energy, focus, and gifts that you've been given. I want you guys to take this opportunity to really slow down a little bit. Give yourself the ability to kick your feet up just a bit. Rest, relax, recharge the batteries. Enjoy the time with family. Enjoy the time alone. Enjoy the time in nature. Enjoy the time of quiet. Reflect. Contemplate. Get yourself recentered, refocused, recharged so that you can do your best to be your best and deliver your best to the world. That's the way of the true driven. Stay tuned for next episode. We're going to be talking about 4 ways, a 4-step process that you can put everything we've been talking about into place, an actual strategy where the rubber meets the road and you can start driving yourself not into a grave, but rather to a higher altitude for better results and big wins and big successes for yourself this year, next year, and beyond. That's what we're here for, my friends. Fuck the whole hustle culture. You're better than that, and you're meant for more than that. It's time to align and unite as a true driven and start adopting the true driven philosophy. And you're going to hear more about that in the episodes coming up. All right, my friends, that's what I got for you today. If you got some value from this, throw it in the comments, hit that like button and the subscribe button, and make sure you stay in the know and be the first to know when I drop new stuff with you. And of course, thank you so much for sharing this message far and wide. And remember, no matter what course you fly in life, fly high, fly fast, and fly far. Stay driven.